The nurses at St. Catherine's Hospital couldn't understand why the man in room 407, a dying father who had Medicare and a millionaire son, was being denied a life-saving surgery that would cost his son less than he spent on his last vacation. But what they didn't know was that Marcus Hartwell had already calculated exactly how long his father would take to die naturally, and he had decided that 3 months was an acceptable timeline to inherit everything. What Jesus revealed to Marcus one night in his penthouse would expose a calculation so evil, he would beg God to let him die instead of his father. In the glass towers of Manhattan's financial district, where billion-dollar deals are negotiated over whiskey and cigars, where success is measured in zeros after numbers, and power is the only currency that matters, Marcus Hartwell had built himself into exactly the kind of man he'd always wanted to be. At 46 years old, he was a managing partner at Hartwell & Associates, a boutique investment firm specializing in corporate acquisitions. His net worth exceeded $30 million. He owned a penthouse overlooking Central Park, drove a Bentley Continental GT, wore custom-tailored suits from Savile Row, and dated models half his age. He had achieved what most men only dream about. He was living the life his father had always hoped he would live. But there was one problem. His father, Raymond Hartwell, 71 years old, was dying in a hospital bed at St. Catherine's, paralyzed from the waist down after a severe stroke, suffering from complications that would kill him within months, unless he received a specialized surgery that insurance wouldn't fully cover. The surgery cost $250,000 out of pocket. Marcus Hartwell, millionaire, son, and executor of his father's will, refused to pay for it. This is not a story about a stranger denying medical care to another stranger. This is not a story about someone who never knew love or sacrifice. This is a story about a man who forgot where he came from, who calculated his father's death as a financial opportunity, and who discovered that some debts can only be paid in eternity. This is a story about greed, about the corruption of the soul, about a father's love that persisted even as his son starved him to death. And it's a story about the night Jesus Christ himself appeared to show Marcus Hartwell exactly what awaited him if he continued down his path. If you believe that God sees everything, even what we hide in the darkest corners of our hearts, then stay with me. This story will disturb you, convict you, and ultimately show you that no sin is hidden from God, and no sinner is beyond his reach if they truly repent. Before we begin, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Tales of God's Grace exists to share true stories of divine intervention and redemption. Your support helps these messages reach people who desperately need to hear them. Now let me take you back not to that hospital room where Raymond Hartwell lay dying, but to 25 years earlier, when Marcus was a young man, and his father made a decision that would change everything. Raymond Hartwell woke up at 4:15 a.m. in room 407 of St. Catherine's Hospital, and for a moment, just a brief, cruel moment, he forgot that he couldn't move his legs. He tried to sit up, tried to shift position because his back was aching from lying in the same position for hours, but nothing happened. From the waist down, his body was dead. The stroke had severed the connection between his brain and his lower body like a cable cut with scissors. The doctors said the paralysis might be temporary if he received the surgery. There was a procedure complex, expensive, but with a 60% success rate that could potentially restore some function. But the surgery had to happen within the next 2 weeks, or the damage would become permanent. 2 weeks, 14 days, 336 hours. Raymond had begged his son to authorize the surgery, had pleaded with Marcus during his twice-weekly visits that lasted exactly 15 minutes, timed precisely so Marcus could fulfill his dutiful son obligation without actually having to spend time with his dying father. "Marcus, please," Raymond had whispered, his voice weak from the breathing tube he'd had for the first week. "The doctors say there's a good chance I could walk again. I could have a few more years. I could meet your children someday. Please, son, please don't let me die like this." Marcus had looked at his father with an expression Raymond couldn't quite read. Not quite disgust, not quite pity. Something colder, something calculated. "Dad, we've been over this," Marcus had said, checking his Rolex as if his father's life was an inconvenience on his schedule. "The surgery is experimental. Insurance won't cover it. It's $250,000 out of pocket, and there's no guarantee it'll even work. I have to be practical here. But you have the money, Raymond had said, tears streaming down his weathered face. Marcus, you're worth millions. $250,000 is nothing to you. It's less than you spent on your car. Marcus's jaw had tightened. My money is my business, Dad. You don't get to tell me how to spend it. I've already paid for your hospital stay. I'm making sure you're comfortable. That should be enough. Comfortable? Raymond had looked at his son in disbelief. Marcus, I'm dying. I'm paralyzed. I'm losing my mind in this room, and you're my son, my only son. I gave you everything. I worked 3 jobs to send you to Colombia. I mortgaged my house to help you start your business. I believed in you when no one else did. And I'm grateful for that, Marcus had said, his tone suggesting he was anything but grateful. But that was your choice, Dad. You chose to invest in me. And it paid off. Look at what I've become. You should be proud of what your investment produced. The words had hit Raymond like physical blows. Investment. Produced. His son was talking about their relationship like a financial transaction. Marcus, Raymond had whispered, his voice breaking. When did you become this person? When did you stop being my boy? Marcus had stood up, straightening his tie, preparing to leave. I have a meeting at 5. I'll be back on Thursday. Try to rest, Dad. The doctors say you have a few months. Make peace with it. And he had left. Just like that. Left his father weeping in a hospital bed. Denied the surgery that could save him. Treated like a bust. Dying stock that wasn't worth reinvesting in. But what Raymond didn't know, what Marcus would never tell him, was that there was a calculation happening. A cold, heartless calculation that would reveal just how far Marcus's soul had fallen. Marcus had reviewed his father's will. Raymond had a modest estate, a paid-off house in New Jersey worth about $450,000, a small retirement account with $120,000, some life insurance policies totaling $200,000. In total, Marcus stood to inherit roughly $770,000 when his father died. Marcus had also researched his father's prognosis without the surgery. The doctors estimated 3 to 6 months, with death likely occurring from infection, organ failure, or complications from immobility. And Marcus had made a decision. Why spend $250,000 to extend his father's life by a few years, when he could inherit $770,000 in a few months? The math was simple. By denying his father the surgery, Marcus would net $1,020,000, $770,000 inheritance, plus the $250,000 he didn't spend. If he paid for the surgery, his father might live another 5 years, and Marcus would only net $520,000, $770,000, inheritance minus $250,000 surgery cost. Marcus had actually calculated his father's death as a financial opportunity. He had put a price on his father's life, and determined that his father was worth more dead than alive. He justified it, of course. His father was old. He'd lived a full life. The surgery might not even work. It wasn't Marcus's fault that healthcare was expensive. He was being practical, not cruel. But deep down, in a place Marcus tried never to examine, he knew the truth. He wanted his father to die, quickly, quietly, with minimal disruption to his life and maximum benefit to his bank account. And so Raymond lay in room 407, growing weaker by the day, while his millionaire son counted down the days until inheritance. The nurses noticed, of course. They always do. It's strange, Nurse Patricia whispered to her colleague one. Mr. Hartwell, in 407 his son is obviously wealthy. Designer suits, expensive watch, drives a Bentley. But he won't pay for the surgery that could save his father's life. Maybe he doesn't have liquid assets, her colleague suggested. No, Patricia shook her head. I heard him on the phone in the waiting room. He was closing some deal worth $3 million. He has the money. He just won't spend it on his dad. The colleague was silent for a moment. Then, that's evil. That's exactly what it is, Patricia agreed. But neither of them knew just how evil it truly was. Neither of them knew about the calculations, the inheritance planning, the cold mathematical decision to let a father die for profit. Only 3 beings knew the full truth: Marcus, God, and soon Jesus Christ himself. Because on this particular night, As Marcus sat in his penthouse sipping $300 scotch and reviewing investment portfolios, completely at peace with his decision to let his father die, he was about to receive a visitor who would shatter his comfortable delusions. A visitor who would show him exactly where his choices were leading. A visitor who would give him one final chance to choose between mammon and mercy, between greed and grace, between inheriting money and losing his eternal soul. Raymond, in his hospital bed, was praying his usual prayer. Dear Jesus, I don't understand why Marcus has become this way, but I know you can reach him. Please, Lord, save my son. I'd rather die and have Marcus saved than live and see him go to hell. Please, Jesus, reach my boy. And Jesus heard that prayer, and he was about to answer it in the most dramatic way possible. Raymond Hartwell woke up at 4:15 a.m. in room 407 of St. Catherine's Hospital, and for a moment, just a brief, cruel moment, he forgot that he couldn't move his legs. He tried to sit up, tried to shift position because his back was aching from lying in the same position for hours, but nothing happened. From the waist down, his body was dead. The stroke had severed the connection between his brain and his lower body like a cable cut with scissors. The doctors said the paralysis might be temporary if he received the surgery. There was a procedure complex, expensive, but with a 60% success rate that could potentially restore some function. But the surgery had to happen within the next 2 weeks, or the damage would become permanent. 2 weeks, 14 days, 336 hours. Raymond had begged his son to authorize the surgery, had pleaded with Marcus during his twice-weekly visits that lasted exactly 15 minutes, timed precisely so Marcus could fulfill his dutiful son obligation without actually having to spend time with his dying father. Marcus, please, Raymond had whispered, his voice weak from the breathing tube he'd had for the first week. The doctors say there's a good chance I could walk again. I could have a few more years. I could meet your children someday. Please, son, please don't let me die like this. Marcus had looked at his father with an expression Raymond couldn't quite read, not quite disgust, not quite pity, something colder, something calculated. Dad, we've been over this, Marcus had said, checking his Rolex, as if his father's life was an inconvenience on his schedule. The surgery is experimental. Insurance won't cover it. It's $250,000 out of pocket. And there's no guarantee it'll even work. I have to be practical here, but you have the money, Raymond had said, tears streaming down his weathered face. Marcus, you're worth millions. $250,000 is nothing to you. It's less than you spent on your car. Marcus's jaw had tightened. My money is my business, Dad. You don't get to tell me how to spend it. I've already paid for your hospital stay. I'm making sure you're comfortable. That should be enough. Comfortable? Raymond had looked at his son in disbelief. Marcus, I'm dying. I'm paralyzed. I'm losing my mind in this room. And you're my son. My only son. I gave you everything. I worked 3 jobs to send you to Colombia. I mortgaged my house to help you start your business. I believed in you when no one else did. And I'm grateful for that, Marcus had said, his tone suggesting he was anything but grateful. But that was your choice, Dad. You chose to invest in me, and it paid off. Look at what I've become. You should be proud of what your investment produced. The words had hit Raymond like physical blows. Investment, produced. His son was talking about their relationship like a financial transaction. Marcus, Raymond had whispered, his voice breaking. When did you become this person? When did you stop being my boy? Marcus had stood up, straightening his tie, preparing to leave. I have a meeting at 5. I'll be back on Thursday. Try to rest, Dad. The doctors say you have a few months. Make peace with it. And he had left, just like that. Left his father weeping in a hospital bed. Denied the surgery that could save him. Treated like a dying stock that wasn't worth reinvesting in. But what Raymond didn't know, what Marcus would never tell him, was that there was a calculation happening. A cold, heartless calculation that would reveal just how far Marcus's soul had fallen. Marcus had reviewed his father's will. Raymond had a modest estate, a paid-off house in New Jersey worth about $450,000, a small retirement account with $120,000, some life insurance policies totaling $200,000. In total, Marcus stood to inherit roughly $770,000 when his father died. Marcus had also researched his father's prognosis without the surgery. The doctors estimated 3 to 6 months, with death likely occurring from infection, organ failure, or complications from immobility. And Marcus had made a decision. Why spend $250,000 to extend his father's life by a few years, when he could inherit $770,000 in a few months? The math was simple. By denying his father the surgery, Marcus would net $1,020,000, $770,000 inheritance, plus the $250,000 he didn't spend. If he paid for the surgery, his father might live another 5 years, and Marcus would only net $520,000, $770,000, inheritance minus $250,000 surgery cost. Marcus had actually calculated his father's death as a financial opportunity. He had put a price on his father's life and determined that his father was worth more dead than alive. He justified it, of course. His father was old. He'd lived a full life. The surgery might not even work. It wasn't Marcus's fault that healthcare was expensive. He was being practical, not cruel, but deep down. In a place Marcus tried never to examine, he knew the truth. He wanted his father to die, quickly, quietly, with minimal disruption to his life and maximum benefit to his bank account. And so Raymond lay in room 407, growing weaker by the day, while his millionaire son counted down the days until inheritance. The nurses noticed. Of course, they always do. It's strange, Nurse Patricia whispered to her colleague one evening. Mr. Hartwell in 407, his son is obviously wealthy. Designer suits, expensive watch, drives a Bentley, but he won't pay for the surgery that could save his father's life. Maybe he doesn't have liquid assets, her colleague suggested. No, Patricia shook her head. I heard him on the phone in the waiting room. He was closing some deal worth $3 million. He has the money. He just won't spend it on his dad. The colleague was silent for a moment. Then, that's evil. That's exactly what it is, Patricia agreed. But neither of them knew just how evil it truly was. Neither of them knew about the calculations, the inheritance planning, the cold mathematical decision to let a father die for profit. Only 3 beings knew the full truth: Marcus, God, and soon Jesus Christ himself. Because on this particular night, as Marcus sat in his penthouse sipping $300 scotch and reviewing investment portfolios, completely at peace with his decision to let his father die, he was about to receive a visitor who would shatter his comfortable delusions. A visitor who would show him exactly where his choices were leading. A visitor who would give him one final chance to choose between mammon and mercy, between greed and grace, between inheriting money and losing his eternal soul. Raymond, in his hospital bed, was praying his usual prayer. Dear Jesus, I don't understand why Marcus has become this way, but I know you can reach him. Please, Lord, save my son. I'd rather die and have Marcus saved than live and see him go to hell. Please, Jesus, reach my boy. And Jesus heard that prayer, and he was about to answer it in the most dramatic way possible. To understand how Marcus Hartwell became the kind of man who could calculate his father's death, we need to go back to before the penthouse, before the millions, before the heart turned to stone. Marcus wasn't born a monster. He was born to Raymond Hartwell, a widower whose wife had died in childbirth, and raised by a single father who loved him more than life itself. Raymond worked as a line supervisor at a manufacturing plant in Newark, New Jersey. It wasn't glamorous work. It wasn't well paid, but it was honest, and Raymond took pride in it. He worked the day shift at the plant, picked up weekend shifts doing maintenance work, and took evening classes to try to get a better position, and every spare moment he had, he spent with his son. Marcus remembered those early years with crystal clarity, though he tried not to, tried to bury them under layers of success and sophistication. But sometimes, late at night, the memories would surface. He remembered being 7 years old, sick with pneumonia. His father stayed home from work for 3 days, losing 3 days' pay they couldn't afford to lose to nurse Marcus back to health. Raymond had made homemade soup, read stories, sung lullabies in his off-key voice, and never left Marcus's side. I can't lose you, buddy, Raymond had whispered, tears in his eyes. You're all I have. You're my whole world. Marcus remembered being 10 years old when his Little League team made it to the championship game. Raymond had worked a double shift the day before to get the day off. He sat in the stands, the only parent who came to every single game, and cheered louder than anyone else. When Marcus hit the home run that won the game, Raymond had jumped the fence and hugged his son so tight Marcus could barely breathe. "That's my boy," Raymond had shouted, tears streaming down his face. "That's my champion." Marcus remembered being 13 when he discovered he had a talent for mathematics. Advanced calculus, statistics, probability numbers made sense to him in a way words never did. His teachers said he was gifted, that he could get into a top university if he worked hard. Raymond had made a decision that night. He had sat Marcus down at their small kitchen table in their cramped apartment and said, "Son, you're going to have opportunities I never had. You're going to go to a great college. You're going to make something of yourself, and I'm going to make sure that happens, no matter what it takes. But Dad, those schools are expensive." 13-year-old Marcus had said, "How can we afford it?" "You let me worry about that," Raymond had said, smiling. "You just focus on being brilliant. That's your job. My job is to make it possible." And Raymond had kept that promise. Oh God, how he had kept that promise. Marcus remembered being 16 when his father started working 3 jobs, the day shift at the plant, weekend maintenance work, and now, evening security shifts at a warehouse, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Raymond would come home at 6:30 a.m., make Marcus breakfast, see him off to school, sleep for 3 hours, wake up at noon to drive Marcus to his after-school math tutoring, go to his plant shift from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., then straight to his security job. Marcus had asked him once, "Dad, when do you sleep?" Raymond had ruffled his son's hair and smiled that tired, beautiful smile that Marcus would give anything to see again, even now. "I sleep when I'm dead, buddy. Right now, I'm building your future." Marcus remembered being 17 when he got accepted to Columbia University with a partial scholarship. The scholarship covered tuition, but there were still fees, housing, books, expenses roughly $25,000 per year. Marcus had watched his father's face when the acceptance letter arrived, watched the pride, the joy, the immediate calculation of how to make this work. "Dad, maybe I should go to state school," Marcus had suggested. "It's so much cheaper. I don't want you to." "No," Raymond had said firmly. "You got into Columbia. Do you know what that means? That's Ivy League, Marcus. That's the door to everything. You're going. We'll figure it out." And figure it out they did. Raymond took out loans. He mortgaged the small house he'd finally managed to buy after years of renting. He cashed out his meager retirement account, paying the early withdrawal penalties. He sold the used car he'd just bought and went back to taking the bus. For 4 years, Raymond sacrificed everything so Marcus could attend Columbia. And Marcus thrived. He was brilliant, driven, hungry for success. He graduated summa cum laude with degrees in economics and finance. He was recruited by a top investment bank. He started making money immediately, good money, 6 figures in his first year. But somewhere during those 4 years at Columbia, something had changed inside Marcus. He had been surrounded by wealth at Columbia. His classmates came from money, old money, new money, stupid money. They talked casually about trust funds and family estates and summer homes in the Hamptons. They wore clothes that cost more than his father's monthly rent. They had connections, networks, opportunities handed to them. And Marcus had a father who worked 3 jobs and lived in a mortgaged house in Newark. The shame started small. A slight embarrassment when classmates asked where he was from. A quick change of subject when someone asked what his father did. "My dad's in manufacturing," he would say, making it sound more impressive than it was. Industrial sector, management. By his senior year, Marcus had stopped inviting his father to campus events, had made excuses why Raymond couldn't attend his graduation, though Raymond had driven down anyway and sat in the back, tears streaming down his face as he watched his son receive his diploma. After graduation, when Marcus got his first big paycheck, Raymond had called, excited. "How does it feel, champ? All that hard work paying off?" "It's great, Dad," Marcus had said distractedly, already looking at luxury apartments in Manhattan, calculating how quickly he could escape his humble origins. "Maybe we could celebrate?" Raymond had suggested. I could come into the city, we could have dinner? I'm really busy right now, Dad. Maybe another time. Sure. Of course. You're building your career. I understand. But the another time never came. The calls became less frequent. The visits stopped altogether. Marcus moved into a high-rise in Manhattan and told people his father was retired, instead of admitting he was still working 3 jobs to pay off the loans he'd taken to fund Marcus's education. Marcus climbed the corporate ladder ruthlessly. He was brilliant with numbers, merciless in negotiations, willing to do whatever it took to win. He jumped from the investment bank to a private equity firm, then started his own boutique firm. He made his first million by 35, his 5th million by 40. He bought the penthouse, the car, the watches, the suits. He dated women who looked good on his arm, but didn't ask difficult questions. He joined the right clubs, attended the right events, cultivated the right image. He became everything his father had dreamed he would become: successful, wealthy, respected. He also became something his father had never imagined: hollow, calculating, heartless. Raymond had continued working until his stroke at 71, still trying to pay off the last of the loans he'd taken for Marcus's education, still living in that small house in Newark, still hoping his son would visit. Once a year, on Father's Day, Marcus would send an expensive gift: a watch, a leather jacket, electronics, things that cost money but required no actual time or thought. Raymond would call to say thank you, his voice always hopeful. "This is so generous, son. You didn't have to do this. Maybe I could come visit you sometime? See your place? My schedule's pretty packed, Dad, but thanks for understanding." The rejection was always polite, always justified by work, always leaving Raymond feeling like he was imposing just by existing. And then the stroke happened. Marcus got the call from St. Catherine's Hospital on a Tuesday afternoon. He was in a meeting when his phone rang. He ignored it, called back 2 hours later. "Is this Marcus Hartwell? This is St. Catherine's Hospital. Your father Raymond has been admitted. He's had a severe stroke. You should come immediately." Marcus had felt nothing. No panic, no fear, no urgency, just mild irritation that he was being interrupted. He finished his workday, grabbed dinner, and drove to the hospital around 9 p.m. When he walked into room 407 and saw his father pale, unconscious, tubes everywhere, his first thought wasn't concern. It was, how is this going to impact my schedule? And when the doctors explained the paralysis, the prognosis, the surgery option, Marcus's mind immediately went to finances. How much? What's it going to cost me? Not, will it work? Not, is there hope? Not, what can I do to save my father? Just, how much? And when they told him $250,000, something clicked in Marcus's head. The calculation, the inheritance, the opportunity. That was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks of Raymond deteriorating, begging, praying. 3 weeks of Marcus visiting twice a week for exactly 15 minutes. 3 weeks of Marcus sleeping soundly in his penthouse, utterly at peace with his decision to let his father die. But tonight, that peace was about to be shattered, because the same God who heard Raymond's prayers was about to send his son to confront the man who had forgotten every sacrifice, every act of love, every sleepless night his father had endured to give him life. And Marcus Hartwell was about to learn that some debts cannot be calculated in dollars and cents. Some debts can only be paid in eternity.
Before we begin, if you believe in second chances and the power of faith, type "restore" in the comments right now. Let your voice be the spark of hope for a family in need. Show the world your faith in action.
Marcus Hartwell sat in his penthouse living room, floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the glittering Manhattan skyline. It was 11:37 p.m. on a Thursday night. He had a tumbler of Macallan 25-year scotch in his hand, $600 per bottle, and a laptop open on his glass coffee table. On the screen, his father's financial documents, the will, the life insurance policies, the property deed, the retirement accounts. Marcus was reviewing everything, making sure he hadn't missed any assets, making sure his calculation was correct. Total inheritance value, $770,000. Surgery cost, $250,000. Net gain by refusing surgery, $1,020,000. Net gain by paying for surgery, $520,000, assuming his father lived another 5 years without other major expenses, which was unlikely. From a purely financial standpoint, letting his father die was the logical choice. Marcus had even created a spreadsheet to make sure his math was right. He took a sip of scotch, feeling the burn in his throat, and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. He had built this life through intelligence, calculation, and ruthless decision-making. He didn't let emotions cloud his judgment. He looked at facts, numbers, probabilities, and the facts were clear. His father was 71, paralyzed, unlikely to recover fully even with surgery. The humane thing, Marcus actually told himself this, the humane thing was to let nature take its course, to not prolong suffering, to accept reality. The fact that accepting reality also netted him an additional $500,000 was just fortunate timing. Marcus opened his phone and scrolled through his messages. A text from his father's nurse had come in an hour ago. Your father had a difficult day, very weak, keeps asking for you. Can you visit tomorrow? Marcus deleted the message without responding. Tomorrow was Friday. He had a client dinner. His schedule was full. Another text, from 2 days ago, from Raymond's phone, probably typed by a nurse since Raymond could barely move his hands. Marcus, please call me. Want to hear your voice. Love you, son. Marcus hadn't responded to that one either. He finished his scotch, poured another, and walked to his window. The city stretched out before him like a kingdom. He had conquered this city, had made himself into exactly the kind of man who belonged here. His father's world, Newark, manufacturing plants, struggling to make rent, felt like another lifetime. A lifetime Marcus had worked very hard to forget. I don't owe him anything, Marcus said aloud to his empty penthouse. I've paid for his hospital care. I've done my duty. He made his choices, and I've made mine. This is just how life works. But even as he said it, even as he tried to convince himself, there was a sound, a voice, so faint he almost missed it, a memory, his father's voice from 20 years ago. You're going to make something of yourself, and I'm going to make sure that happens, no matter what it takes. Marcus shook his head, banishing the thought. Nostalgia was weakness. Sentiment was for people who couldn't afford to be practical. He checked his watch. 11:52 p.m. Early morning tomorrow, 8 a.m. breakfast meeting with a potential investor. He should sleep. Marcus put his glass in the sink, turned off the lights, and walked to his master bedroom. Floor-to-ceiling windows here too, blackout shades he could lower with a remote, king-size bed with 1,000 thread-count sheets. Everything perfect, everything expensive, everything exactly as he wanted it. He was asleep within minutes, the sleep of someone whose conscience had been successfully silenced. But at 3:33 a.m., Marcus Hartwell's eyes snapped open, not gradually, not the gentle wake of someone naturally ending their sleep cycle, like someone had flipped a switch, like someone had called his name. Marcus lay perfectly still, his heart suddenly pounding. The room was dark, he'd lowered the blackout shades, but there was light coming from somewhere. He turned his head toward the foot of his bed and froze. A man stood there. Not a home invader, not a figment of imagination. This was something else entirely. The man, though, calling him just a man, felt inadequate, wore simple white robes that seemed to generate their own light. His face was serene but carried an authority that made Marcus's breath catch. His eyes, those eyes, looked at Marcus with a combination of infinite compassion and infinite sadness that pierced straight through every defense Marcus had ever built. Marcus wanted to scream, wanted to reach for his phone, wanted to run, but he couldn't move. Not because he was restrained, but because the presence of this being commanded such complete authority that Marcus's body simply wouldn't obey his panic. Marcus Hartwell, the figure said, and his voice wasn't loud, but it filled the entire penthouse. It resonated in Marcus's chest, in his bones, in his very soul. Do you know who I am? Marcus's mouth opened. No sound came out at first. Then, barely a whisper, Jesus. Yes, Jesus took a step closer. I am the Son of God. I am the one your father has been praying to every night, begging me to save your soul before you commit a sin that will cost you eternity. And I have come because those prayers have moved heaven, and they will not go unanswered. This isn't real, Marcus whispered, his voice shaking. This is a dream. I'm dreaming. Is it a dream? Jesus asked, gently. Or is this the first moment of clarity you've had in 20 years? Marcus tried to respond, but words failed him. Jesus extended his hand. Come. I want to show you something. I want you to see what you've become. I want you to see what you're choosing. No. Marcus shook his head, tears beginning to stream down his face. No, please. I don't want to see anything. Please just leave me alone. Leave you alone? Jesus' voice was soft but carried an edge of righteous anger. You mean the way you've left your father alone? Dying? In a hospital bed? Begging for your help? While you sit in your tower counting the money you'll inherit from his death? I didn't, Marcus stammered. Don't lie to me, Marcus. Jesus' eyes blazed with divine authority. I know every thought you've ever had. I've seen every calculation you've made. I watched you create a spreadsheet to determine whether your father's life was worth the cost. I know exactly what you are. Marcus felt like he was being torn apart from the inside. The shame, the guilt, the horror of having his darkest thoughts exposed. It was unbearable. Come, Jesus said again, and this time it wasn't a request. He touched Marcus's hand, and instantly the bedroom disappeared. Marcus found himself transported not physically, but spiritually, standing invisible in scenes from his own life, watching like a ghost at his own history. The first scene made him gasp. He was 8 years old again, but he wasn't seeing it from his own perspective, he was seeing it from his father's. Raymond Hartwell sat at the small kitchen table in their cramped apartment, surrounded by bills, past due notices, final warnings, electricity bill, water bill, rent. Raymond's paycheck stub showed $1,847 for 2 weeks of work. The bills totaled $2,100. Marcus watched his father, younger, not yet worn down by decades of triple shifts, put his head in his hands and weep silently. Watched him pray. God, please help me. I don't know how to make this work. I can't let Marcus see me struggle. I can't let him grow up poor. Please, show me what to do. Then Raymond wiped his tears, stood up, and made a phone call. Hey, boss, it's Raymond. I know I'm scheduled off this weekend, but if there's any overtime available, I'd like to take it. Yes, both Saturday and Sunday. I know it's my son's birthday Sunday, but we need the money. Thank you. I appreciate it. Marcus watched his younger self burst into the kitchen moments later. Dad, can we go to the batting cages on Sunday? For my birthday? And Raymond, who had just sacrificed his son's birthday to work, smiled broadly and said, how about we go to the batting cages on Saturday instead? Even better, right? We'll make it extra special. But don't you have to work Saturday? I moved some things around for you, buddy. Your birthday is the most important thing. The lie was told with such love that 8-year-old Marcus had believed it completely. Had never known his father worked a double shift on his actual birthday to afford the batting cage trip the day before. The scene shifted. Marcus was now 16. He watched his father in the break room at the manufacturing plant, eating a sandwich for lunch. But wait, it wasn't a sandwich. It was just bread, 2 slices of dry bread and some tap water. A coworker sat down next to Raymond. Rough week? Just trying to save a little extra, Raymond said, forcing a smile. Marcus needs a graphing calculator for his advanced math class. $120. I'm just skipping lunch for a couple weeks. No big deal. Raymond, you can't starve yourself for. He's going to get into a great college, Raymond interrupted, his voice fierce with pride. He's brilliant. He's going to have opportunities I never had. So yeah, I'll skip a few lunches. I'll skip 100 lunches if that's what it takes. Marcus watched his father eat his dry bread and felt like his heart was being crushed. The scene shifted again. He was now watching his college graduation from Columbia. He saw himself on stage, receiving his diploma, surrounded by classmates and their wealthy families. And in the very back of the auditorium, standing because he couldn't afford a reserved seat, was Raymond, wearing the only suit he owned, 20 years old, carefully pressed, slightly too small now, tears streaming down his face. Hands clasped together in front of his chest like he was praying. Marcus watched a couple in expensive clothes walk past Raymond and wrinkle their noses slightly, as if he didn't belong there. Raymond didn't notice or didn't care. His eyes were locked on his son, his face radiating pure joy and pride. "That's my boy," Raymond whispered. "That's my champion. We did it, buddy. We did it." And young Marcus on stage? He was scanning the audience, but not looking toward the back. Not looking for his father. Looking at his wealthy classmates and their families, already calculating how to fit into their world. "Stop," Marcus begged Jesus. "Please stop showing me this." "Why?" Jesus asked. "Because it hurts to see the truth? Because it's easier to forget what was sacrificed for you?" The visions continued faster now. Raymond taking out a mortgage on the house, signing papers with trembling hands, putting his only asset at risk. Raymond at 3 a.m., exhausted from his security shift, stopping at a gas station to buy Marcus's favorite candy bar to send in a care package. Raymond canceling his own doctor's appointments because he couldn't afford the co-pays after paying Marcus's school fees. Raymond alone on Christmas because Marcus was too busy to come home, eating a frozen dinner and looking at pictures of his son. Raymond's face every time Marcus's calls became less frequent, the hope dying slowly in his eyes, the realization that his son was pulling away, but still praying every night. "Please, Lord, keep my Marcus safe. Help him be successful. I don't need him to visit. I just need him to be happy." "Enough, enough," Marcus screamed. "I get it. He sacrificed for me. I know that. Do you?" Jesus turned to face him fully. "Because you calculated his death as a profit opportunity, Marcus. You put a price on the life of the man who gave up everything for you. You decided he was worth more dead than alive. Do you understand what that makes you?" The scene changed violently. Marcus found himself standing in room 407 at St. Catherine's Hospital. His father lay in the bed, and Marcus was seeing him, really seeing him for the first time in weeks. Raymond had lost at least 30 pounds. His skin was gray and papery, hanging loose on his frame. His eyes were sunken, ringed with dark circles. His hands trembled constantly. His breathing was labored, each breath requiring visible effort. But worse than the physical deterioration was the expression on his face. It was the look of someone who had finally given up hope. Marcus watched himself enter the room for one of his 15-minute visits. Watched himself check his watch 3 times during the brief conversation. Watched himself recoil slightly when Raymond reached for his hand. "Marcus," Raymond whispered, his voice barely audible. "Please, please don't let me die like this. I'm your father. I love. Please." And Marcus watched himself respond. "We've been over this, Dad. Be realistic. You're 71. You've lived a good life. Sometimes, we have to accept things." Jesus stood beside Marcus, silent, letting him absorb the full horror of his own words. "I sound like a monster," Marcus whispered. "You are a monster," Jesus said quietly. "You've become the thing you most despised when you were young, someone who measures human life by financial value. Someone who forgot that love isn't a transaction." The scene shifted to show Raymond alone in the room after Marcus left. The elderly man was crying, his whole body shaking with sobs. "Jesus," Raymond prayed through his tears. "I don't understand what happened to my boy. He used to be so sweet, so kind. Where did that boy go? Please, Lord, save him. Don't let his soul be destroyed by money. Don't let him die without knowing you. I forgive him for abandoning me. I forgive him for letting me die. Just please, please save his." Marcus collapsed to his knees, sobbing, "Oh God, oh God, what have I done?" But Jesus wasn't finished. "There's more you need to see," he said gravely. "You need to see what happens if you continue on this path." The hospital room dissolved, and Marcus found himself watching a scene that hadn't happened yet. But he knew, somehow, that this was his future if he didn't change. He watched himself enter room 407 3 weeks from now. Watched himself set down a briefcase and check his phone before even looking at the bed. Then watched himself freeze. Raymond wasn't moving, wasn't breathing. His eyes were open, staring at nothing. Dead. Marcus watched his future self rush to the bed, check for a pulse, and then stagger backward. "No, no, no, no. Dad, Dad." But it was too late. Raymond Hartwell had died alone in the middle of the night, while his millionaire son slept comfortably in his penthouse. The scene fast-forwarded. Marcus saw himself at the funeral. A small affair. Raymond hadn't had many friends left after working himself to death. Marcus delivered a eulogy full of platitudes about his father's hard work and dedication. Words that rang hollow because everyone there knew Marcus had abandoned him. An elderly woman, one of Raymond's former co-workers, approached Marcus after the service. "You should be ashamed of yourself," she said, tears in her eyes. "Raymond worked 3 jobs to give you everything, and you let him die alone. You had the money to save him, and you chose not to. I hope you can live with yourself, because God sees what you did." Marcus watched his future self brush her off, irritated by her judgment. The scene jumped forward again. Marcus saw himself back in his penthouse, opening his father's will, reviewing the inheritance. Saw himself transfer the funds into his investment accounts. Saw himself literally profiting from his father's death. And then the thing that made Marcus's blood run cold, he saw himself smile. His future self actually smiled as he looked at his increased net worth. "That's not me," Marcus whispered. "I wouldn't. I'm not that heartless." "That's exactly what you're becoming," Jesus said. "This is where your choices lead. Every decision to value money over love, every calculation that treats people as assets, every moment you harden your heart, this is the destination." The scene jumped forward years now. Marcus saw himself old, successful, surrounded by wealth but utterly alone. No wife, his relationships were all transactional. No children, he'd never made time for family. No friends, only business associates who would abandon him the moment he stopped being useful. He watched his older self die in a hospital room, not unlike his father's. Alone, no one visiting, no one grieving. Just a wealthy old man whose money couldn't buy him love or meaning or redemption. And then Marcus saw what came after death. He stood before the throne of God, and his entire life was laid bare. Every selfish decision, every calculation of profit over love, every moment he chose mammon over mercy. He heard his own voice defending himself. "But I was successful. I built a fortune. I was practical, not emotional. I made smart decisions." And he heard the voice of God, thunderous, absolute, final. "You had every opportunity to love, and you chose greed. You had a father who sacrificed everything for you, and you let him die for profit. You calculated the value of a human soul in dollars and cents. Depart from me. I never knew you." Marcus watched himself cast into outer darkness, and he experienced it not fully, because a human mind can't contain the full horror of hell, but enough to understand. It wasn't just fire or pain. It was separation. Complete, total, eternal separation from everything good, everything loving, everything that makes existence bearable. It was the memory of his father's love, now a torment because he'd rejected it. It was the knowledge of what he could have been, now impossible to achieve. It was the sound of his father's prayers echoing in eternity, prayers Marcus had ignored, prayers that could have saved him if he'd listened. It was isolation, forever, with only his own choices for company. And time didn't heal it or dull it or make it easier. It was eternal, forever, without end, without hope, without relief. Marcus screamed.
If this moment is touching your heart, share your story or a prayer request in the comments below. Someone watching may need the encouragement only you can give. Tag a friend who could use this message of hope today.
The vision ended abruptly. Marcus was back in his bedroom, on his knees, Jesus standing before him. Marcus was hyperventilating, sobbing, shaking uncontrollably. "Please," he gasped. "Please, I don't want that. I don't want to end up there. Please." "Then choose differently," Jesus said, his voice gentle now. "Right now, this moment. This is your chance, Marcus. This is your father's prayers being answered. I'm giving you what you don't deserve, an opportunity to repent, to change, to become who you were meant to be." "How?" Marcus looked up at Jesus, his face wet with tears. "How can I fix this? How can I undo what I've done?" "You can't undo it," Jesus said. "But you can change course right now. You can go to that hospital. You can authorize that surgery. You can spend your father's remaining time, whether it's days or years, actually loving him instead of calculating his worth." "But everyone will see," Marcus whispered. "They'll know I refused at first. My reputation." "Your reputation?" Jesus' voice carried disappointment. "Marcus, You're about to lose your father, and you're worried about your reputation." Marcus hung his head in shame. Jesus knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Listen to me carefully. Your father is dying. If you don't authorize that surgery within the next 48 hours, he will die. His body is failing. This is your last chance. Not just to save his life, but to save your own soul." "What if I can't afford it?" Marcus said weakly, knowing even as he said it how ridiculous it sounded. "You spent $50,000 on your car's custom sound system," Jesus said quietly. "You spent $30,000 on a watch. You spent $15,000 on a bottle of wine at a client dinner. Don't tell me you can't afford to save your father's life. The question isn't whether you can afford it. The question is whether you love him more than you love your money." Marcus was silent, the truth crushing him. "I want to show you one more thing," Jesus said. He touched Marcus's forehead, and suddenly Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in 20 years. He felt his father's love. Every prayer Raymond had prayed, every sacrifice he'd made, every moment of pride when Marcus succeeded, every moment of heartbreak when Marcus pulled away, every hope, every dream, every ounce of unconditional love Raymond had poured into his son. It flooded through Marcus like a wave, and he understood finally, fully understood what he'd been rejecting, what he'd been calculating the value of. This wasn't just a man. This was his father, the person who had given him life, who had worked himself to exhaustion to give Marcus opportunities, who had never stopped loving him even when Marcus stopped returning that love, and Marcus was letting him die for money. "Oh God," Marcus sobbed. "Oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "Don't tell me," Jesus said gently. "Tell him, while you still can." He helped Marcus to his feet. "You have a choice to make right now, Marcus. The easy path, continue as you are, inherit your money, lose your soul. Or the difficult path, humble yourself, save your father, lose your pride, but gain what truly matters." "What if it's too late?" Marcus whispered. "What if he doesn't forgive me?" Jesus smiled, the first smile Marcus had seen from him all night. "Your father has already forgiven you. He forgave you months ago. He's been praying for you every single day, begging me to save you before you destroy yourself. That's what fathers do when they truly love. They forgive before they're even asked." "I don't deserve him," Marcus said. "No, you don't," Jesus agreed. "But love isn't about deserving. It's about giving anyway. Your father taught you that, though you forgot. Now it's time to remember." Jesus began to fade. "Go to him, Marcus. Authorize the surgery. Spend time with him. Love him while you still can. And watch as I restore what you thought was lost." "Will I see you again?" Marcus asked. "I am with you always," Jesus said, his voice echoing as he disappeared. "Every time you choose love over greed, you honor me. Every time you sacrifice for your father, you reflect my own sacrifice for you. Go now. Time is running out." And then he was gone. Marcus stood alone in his bedroom, but he was not the same man who had gone to sleep hours earlier. The scales had fallen from his eyes. The calculations had been shattered. The spreadsheets meant nothing. His father was dying, and Marcus finally understood what that meant. He looked at the clock, 4:47 a.m. Without hesitation, still in his pajamas, Marcus grabbed his phone, his wallet, his car keys, and ran out of his penthouse. He had a father to save. The vision ended abruptly. Marcus was back in his bedroom, on his knees, Jesus standing before him. Marcus was hyperventilating, sobbing, shaking uncontrollably. "Please," he gasped. "Please, I don't want that. I don't want to end up there. Please." "Then choose differently," Jesus said, his voice gentle now. "Right now, this moment. This is your chance, Marcus. This is your father's prayers being answered. I'm giving you what you don't deserve, an opportunity to repent, to change, to become who you were meant to be." "How?" Marcus looked up at Jesus, his face wet with tears. "How can I fix this? How can I undo what I've done?" "You can't undo it," Jesus said. "But you can change course right now. You can go to that hospital. You can authorize that surgery. You can spend your father's remaining time, whether it's days or years, actually loving him instead of calculating his worth." "But everyone will see," Marcus whispered. "They'll know I refused at first. My reputation, your Reputation? Jesus' voice carried disappointment. Marcus, you're about to lose your father, and you're worried about your reputation. Marcus hung his head in shame. Jesus knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Listen to me carefully. Your father is dying. If you don't authorize that surgery within the next 48 hours, he will die. His body is failing. This is your last chance. Not just to save his life, but to save your own soul. What if I can't afford it? Marcus said weakly, knowing even as he said it how ridiculous it sounded. You spent $50,000 on your car's custom sound system, Jesus said quietly. You spent $30,000 on a watch. You spent $15,000 on a bottle of wine at a client dinner. Don't tell me you can't afford to save your father's life. The question isn't whether you can afford it. The question is whether you love him more than you love your money. Marcus was silent, the truth crushing him. I want to show you one more thing, Jesus said. He touched Marcus's forehead, and suddenly Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in 20 years. He felt his father's love. Every prayer Raymond had prayed, every sacrifice he'd made, every moment of pride when Marcus succeeded, every moment of heartbreak when Marcus pulled away, every hope, every dream, every ounce of unconditional love Raymond had poured into his son. It flooded through Marcus like a wave, and he understood finally, fully understood what he'd been rejecting, what he'd been calculating the value of. This wasn't just a man. This was his father, the person who had given him life, who had worked himself to exhaustion to give Marcus opportunities, who had never stopped loving him even when Marcus stopped returning that love, and Marcus was letting him die for money. Oh God, Marcus sobbed. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't tell me, Jesus said gently. Tell him, while you still can. He helped Marcus to his feet. You have a choice to make right now, Marcus. The easy path, continue as you are, inherit your money, lose your soul. Or the difficult path, humble yourself, save your father, lose your pride, but gain what truly matters. What if it's too late? Marcus whispered. What if he doesn't forgive me? Jesus smiled, the first smile Marcus had seen from him all night. Your father has already forgiven you. He forgave you months ago. He's been praying for you every single day, begging me to save you before you destroy yourself. That's what fathers do when they truly love. They forgive before they're even asked. I don't deserve him, Marcus said. No, you don't, Jesus agreed. But love isn't about deserving. It's about giving anyway. Your father taught you that, though you forgot. Now it's time to remember. Jesus began to fade. Go to him, Marcus. Authorize the surgery. Spend time with him. Love him while you still can. And watch as I restore what you thought was lost. Will I see you again? Marcus asked. I am with you always, Jesus said, his voice echoing as he disappeared. Every time you choose love over greed, you honor me. Every time you sacrifice for your father, you reflect my own sacrifice for you. Go now. Time is running out. And then he was gone. Marcus stood alone in his bedroom, but he was not the same man who had gone to sleep hours earlier. The scales had fallen from his eyes. The calculations had been shattered. The spreadsheets meant nothing. His father was dying, and Marcus finally understood what that meant. He looked at the clock, 4:47 a.m. Without hesitation, still in his pajamas, Marcus grabbed his phone, his wallet, his car keys, and ran out of his penthouse. He had a father to save. Marcus's Bentley screamed through the empty Manhattan streets at 5 a.m., running red lights, speeding, not caring about traffic laws or safety. The only thing that mattered was getting to street, Catherine's hospital, getting to his father, before it was too late. His hands shook on the steering wheel. Tears blurred his vision, but he kept driving, kept pushing forward. The visions Jesus had shown him played on repeat in his mind, his father's sacrifices, his father's prayers, his father's love, and his own cruelty, his calculations, his spreadsheet determining that his father was worth more dead than alive. Oh God, Marcus sobbed as he drove. Please let me make this right. Please don't let him die before I can tell him I'm sorry. He pulled into the hospital parking lot at 5:23 a.m., abandoned his car in a no-parking zone, and sprinted through the emergency entrance. The night nurse at the desk looked up, startled. Sir, visiting hours don't start until Raymond Hartwell, Room 407, Marcus panted. I'm his son. I need to see him right now. Sir, it's 5:30 inches the morning. You'll need to, please, Marcus begged, tears streaming down his face. Please, I need to see my father. I need to authorize his surgery. I need to tell him I'm sorry. Please. Something in Marcus's face, the desperation, the genuine anguish made the nurse pause. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Room 407, 4th floor. But keep your voice down, other patients are sleeping. Marcus didn't wait for the elevator. He took the stairs 3 at a time, bursting through the 4th floor door and running down the hallway. Room 407. He stopped at the door, suddenly terrified. What if his father wouldn't forgive him? What if it was too late? But he couldn't hesitate now. He pushed open the door and entered. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of medical monitors. Raymond lay in the bed, looking even more frail than Marcus remembered. The beeping of the heart monitor seemed slower, weaker. Dad? Marcus's voice cracked. Raymond's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, he seemed confused, disoriented. Then recognition dawned, followed by something Marcus couldn't quite read. Hope? Resignation? Pain? Marcus? Raymond's voice was barely a whisper. What are you doing here? It's so early. Marcus crossed the room and fell to his knees beside the bed, grabbing his father's hand, the same hand he'd recoiled from just days ago. Dad, I'm so sorry, Marcus sobbed. I'm so sorry for everything, for abandoning you, for refusing the surgery, for treating you like you didn't matter, for calculating your death like it was a business decision, for forgetting everything you sacrificed for me, for becoming a monster. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. Raymond stared at his son, tears beginning to stream down his own face. Marcus, what happened? Jesus came to me, Marcus said, not caring how crazy it sounded. Tonight, he appeared to me. He showed me everything, all your sacrifices, all your prayers, all the ways you loved me, even when I stopped loving you back. He showed me what I've become, and he showed me what's going to happen if I don't change. Marcus squeezed his father's hand. And I'm changing, Dad, right now. I'm authorizing the surgery. I don't care what it costs. I don't care about the inheritance. I don't care about anything except saving you. Please, please forgive me. Raymond was fully crying now, his body shaking with sobs. Son, he whispered, son, I forgave you a long time ago. I've been praying for this moment. I've been begging Jesus to reach you. I knew my boy was still in there somewhere. I don't deserve your forgiveness, Marcus said. Probably not, Raymond said with a weak smile. But I'm giving it anyway. That's what fathers do. Marcus laid his head on the bed, still holding his father's hand, and wept. 20 years of suppressed emotions, 20 years of denied love, 20 years of calculated cruelty. All of it came pouring out in heaving sobs. And Raymond, weak as he was, raised his other hand and placed it on his son's head, stroking his hair the way he had when Marcus was a child. It's okay, buddy, Raymond whispered. You're home now. You're finally home. They stayed like that for several minutes, father and son, reunited after years of emotional separation. Finally, Marcus lifted his head. I'm calling the surgeon right now. We're doing this surgery, whatever it takes. Marcus, it's expensive. I don't care, Marcus said firmly. Money means nothing. You're my father. You're worth everything. I should have said yes the moment they told us about it. I was a fool. But I'm not going to be a fool anymore. He pulled out his phone and called the hospital's administrative office, leaving an urgent message about authorizing Raymond Hartwell's surgery and providing whatever financial guarantees were needed. Then he called the surgeon directly, waking him up at 5:45 a.m. Dr. Patterson, this is Marcus Hartwell, Raymond Hartwell's son. I'm authorizing the surgery, today if possible. I'll sign whatever you need, pay whatever it costs. Just please save my father. There was a brief pause. Mr. Hartwell, I'm glad you've reconsidered. Let me make some calls. We'll need to prep your father, run some tests, but if everything checks out, we could potentially schedule it for tomorrow morning. But I have to tell you, time is of the essence. Your father's condition has deteriorated significantly. Then let's not waste another second, Marcus said. I'll be at the hospital all day. Whatever you need from me, I'm here. After he hung up, Marcus looked at his father. "We're doing this, Dad. You're going to get that surgery. And you're going to walk again. And we're going to have a second chance at being father and son." Raymond smiled, fresh tears rolling down his face. "I prayed for this, Marcus. Every single night, I prayed that you'd come back to me." "Your prayers were answered," Marcus said. "Jesus heard you, and he came to me because you wouldn't give up. You saved me, Dad. By never stopping loving me, you saved my soul." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Doctors came in to evaluate Raymond's condition for surgery. Nurses drew blood, took vitals, prepared paperwork. Marcus signed every form, wrote every check, made every call necessary, and through it all, he never left his father's side. At one point, Nurse Patricia, the one who had noticed Marcus's cruelty weeks earlier, entered the room. She stopped short when she saw Marcus sitting beside the bed, holding his father's hand, actually engaged in conversation. "Mr. Hartwell," she said cautiously. Marcus looked up. "I know what you're thinking. I know what you saw before. I was a terrible son. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." Patricia studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Your father never stopped talking about you. Even when father never you. Even when things were difficult. He always said his son was a good man who had just lost his way." "He was right," Marcus said quietly. "But I'm finding my way back." The surgery was scheduled for Saturday morning at 7 a.m. Marcus had spent every moment leading up to it with his father talking, reminiscing, apologizing, listening to stories he'd heard 1,000 times as a child but had forgotten as an adult. They talked about Marcus's childhood, about Raymond's wife, Marcus's mother who had died bringing Marcus into the world, about the sacrifices Raymond had made, which he'd never wanted Marcus to know about. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to feel guilty," Raymond explained. "I wanted you to chase your dreams freely. I wanted you to become successful without feeling like you owed me anything. But I did owe you," Marcus said. "I owed you everything, and I forgot." "You didn't forget," Raymond corrected gently. "You just got lost. But Jesus found you. That's what he does. He finds lost sons and brings them home." On Saturday morning, as the orderlies prepared to take Raymond to surgery, Marcus held his father's hand tightly. "I love you, Dad," Marcus said, the words feeling both foreign and natural on his tongue. How long had it been since he'd said those words? "I love you too, son," Raymond said, smiling despite his fear. "No matter what happens in there, I want you to know I'm proud of you. Not because you're successful or wealthy. I'm proud because you came back, because you chose love. That's real success. You're going to be fine," Marcus said, trying to convince himself as much as his father. "You're going to walk again, and we're going to have years together. I'm going to make up for lost time. I'm going to hold you to that," Raymond said with a weak laugh. Then they took him away, and Marcus was left in the waiting room, pacing, praying, terrified. The surgery was supposed to take 6 hours. Marcus didn't leave the waiting room, didn't eat, didn't check his phone for work emails, just paced and prayed and begged God to give his father more time. "Please," he whispered, "please let him survive this. Please give me a chance to be the son he deserves. I know I don't deserve it, but please, for his sake, not mine." At hour 5, Dr. Patterson emerged from the surgical suite. Marcus's heart stopped. "How is he?" Marcus demanded. Dr. Patterson pulled down his mask, and Marcus couldn't read his expression. "Mr. Hartwell," the doctor said slowly, "the surgery was complicated. Your father's condition was worse than we initially thought. There were additional complications we had to address. But is he alive? Is he going to make it?" Dr. Patterson smiled. "He's alive, and the surgery was successful. We won't know the full extent of function restoration for several weeks, but the immediate prognosis is good. Your father is a fighter." Marcus felt his legs give out. He sat down hard in a waiting room chair, put his face in his hands, and sobbed with relief. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you." Raymond's recovery was slow but remarkable. The surgery had restored approximately 60% of function to his lower body. He could walk with a walker now, could stand without assistance for short periods, could move his legs, feel sensations, slowly rebuild his strength. More importantly, He had his son back. Marcus had sold the penthouse, sold the Bentley, moved into a modest but comfortable house in New Jersey close to his father. He had left his firm, walked away from the position he'd spent 20 years building. His former partners had been shocked, angry, threatening legal action over non-compete clauses and client poaching. Marcus hadn't cared. He'd started a new business, financial consulting for working-class families, helping people like his father understand retirement planning, savings, investments. The money was a fraction of what he'd made before, but the work had meaning. And every evening, Marcus had dinner with his father. They ate simple meals in Raymond's small house, the house Raymond had mortgaged to pay for Marcus's education. The house Marcus had now paid off completely. "You didn't have to do that," Raymond had said when Marcus handed him the paid-off mortgage documents. "Yes, I did," Marcus had replied. "You mortgaged your security for my future. The least I can do is give you back your security." On this particular evening, 3 months after the surgery, they sat on Raymond's porch, drinking coffee, watching the sunset. "How's the business going?" Raymond asked. "Good," Marcus said. "Really good. I helped a single mom set up a college fund for her daughter this week. Made about $200 in fees. But you should have seen her face when she realized she could actually save for her kid's future. That feeling is worth more than any $1 million deal I ever closed." Raymond smiled. "I'm proud of you, son." "You keep saying that," Marcus said. "Because I keep meaning it," Raymond replied. "You came back from a very dark place, Marcus. Not many people do that. Not many. People let Jesus reach them the way you did." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I've been thinking about that night a lot, when Jesus appeared to me. It feels like a dream now, but I know it was real. I know he saved me." "He did," Raymond confirmed. "But you know what? Your choice saved you. Jesus showed you the truth, but you chose to accept it. You chose to change. That takes courage." "I was terrified," Marcus admitted. "When he showed me my future, where I was heading, I was so scared. The vision of hell, of eternal separation. I can't even describe it. It was worse than death. That's why Jesus came," Raymond said gently. "To save us from that. To give us a way out. All we have to do is accept his grace." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sky turn from gold to pink to purple. "Dad?" Marcus said finally. "Yeah, buddy? Thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for praying for me even when I didn't deserve it. Thank you for loving me when I was unlovable." Raymond reached over and squeezed his son's hand. "That's what fathers do, Marcus. We love our children no matter what. That's what God does for us too." Marcus had started attending church with his father, the same small community church Raymond had attended for decades. And one Sunday, the pastor asked Marcus if he would share his testimony. Marcus stood before the congregation, nervous, humbled, but ready. "6 months ago, I was a millionaire," he began. "I had everything the world says should make you happy: money, success, power, prestige. But I was empty inside. And more than empty, I was evil." The congregation was silent, listening intently. My father, this incredible man sitting right here, had sacrificed everything for me. Worked 3 jobs, mortgaged his house, gave up his own dreams so I could achieve mine. And when he had a stroke and needed expensive surgery to potentially walk again, I refused to pay for it. He heard gasps from the congregation. "Worse than that," Marcus continued, his voice shaking. "I calculated his death. I literally made a spreadsheet determining whether it was more profitable to let him die naturally and inherit his estate, or pay for his surgery and have him live longer. I chose the money." More gasps. Some people looked horrified. I'm telling you this not to shock you, but to show you how far a human soul can fall when we worship money instead of God, when we measure life in dollars instead of love, when we forget that every person, especially our parents, has immeasurable worth that can't be calculated on a spreadsheet. Marcus looked at his father, who was smiling through tears. But here's the miracle. My father never stopped praying for me, never stopped loving me, never stopped believing that the son he raised was still in there somewhere. And his prayers moved heaven. Literally, Marcus told them about the night Jesus appeared, about the visions of past, present, and future, about the choice he was given, about the transformation that happened in a single night. Jesus didn't give up on me even when I'd given up on myself, Marcus said. He reached into my darkness and pulled me out. He showed me the truth about who I'd become and who I could still be. And he gave me a second chance I absolutely did not deserve. He paused, wiping tears from his face. I'm standing here today because my father's prayers were answered, because Jesus is real and he intervenes in our lives, because no one, no matter how far they've fallen, is beyond redemption if they truly repent. The congregation erupted in applause and amens. After the service, people approached Marcus, some to thank him, some to share their own stories of redemption, some to ask for prayer. One young man in particular grabbed Marcus's arm. "Thank you," he said, crying. "I've been treating my parents terribly, taking them for granted. I'm going to change. Today. Right now." And Marcus understood. This was his purpose now, not to build wealth, but to build bridges, not to calculate profits, but to share the incalculable value of love. Not to achieve success by the world's standards, but to point people toward the only success that matters: reconciliation with God and with the people we're called to love. Raymond Hartwell was now walking with only a cane. The recovery had exceeded every expectation. His doctors called it remarkable. Raymond called it a miracle. Marcus called it God's grace. On Father's Day morning, Marcus arrived at his father's house early, carrying bags of groceries to make breakfast: pancakes, bacon, eggs, orange juice. The same breakfast Raymond used to make for him every Sunday when Marcus was a child. "Happy Father's Day, Dad," Marcus said, hugging his father tightly. "Thank you, son," Raymond said, returning the embrace. "But you know, every day feels like Father's Day now. Having you back in my life, really back, is the greatest gift I could ask for." They cooked together, talking and laughing. Marcus burned the first batch of pancakes, just like he used to as a kid. Raymond teased him about it, just like he used to. After breakfast, they sat in the living room, and Marcus handed his father a wrapped gift. "You didn't have to get me anything," Raymond protested. "Open it," Marcus insisted. Raymond unwrapped the gift carefully. Inside was a leather-bound photo album. On the cover, embossed in gold, the Hartwell legacy. Raymond opened it, and tears immediately filled his eyes. The first page had a photo of Raymond holding baby Marcus in the hospital, the day Marcus's mother died, the day Raymond became a single father. Beneath it, Marcus had written, "The day you chose love over grief, the day you decided to raise me alone, the day you became my hero." The next pages chronicled Marcus's childhood: Raymond at his Little League games, Raymond helping with homework, Raymond working at one of his many jobs while young Marcus colored beside him. Each photo had a caption written by Marcus, acknowledging sacrifices he'd been too young or too selfish to notice before. "Christmas 1989, the year you worked triple shifts, so I could have that bike I wanted. My 13th birthday, the year you sold your fishing boat to buy my first computer. High school graduation, the day you cried because your son was going to college, something you never got to do." The photos continued through Marcus's college years, though they became sparser evidence of Marcus pulling away. But Raymond was still in them, always in the background, always supporting, always loving. And then the photos from the last year. Marcus at the hospital after Raymond's surgery, Marcus and Raymond having dinner together, Marcus helping Raymond with physical therapy, Marcus and Raymond at church, Marcus and Raymond laughing together on the porch. The final page had a recent photo of them together, both smiling, arms around each other. Beneath it, Marcus had written, "The year Jesus brought me home, the year I remembered what matters, the year I stopped calculating and started loving. Thank you for never giving up on me, Dad. Thank you for praying when I couldn't pray for myself. Thank you for showing me what it means to love unconditionally. You saved my life by refusing to stop loving me. I love you more than any words can express. Your son, Marcus." Raymond closed the album and pulled Marcus into a fierce hug, both of them crying. "This is the most precious gift I've ever received," Raymond whispered. "Having my son back, really back, is everything I ever prayed for. I wish I could give you back the 20 years I wasted," Marcus said. "We're not wasting any more time," Raymond said, firmly. "We're making new memories now, better ones. That's what redemption means. Son, we don't erase the past, but we create a new future. They spent the rest of the day together, went to church, where the congregation sang How Great Thou Art, Raymond's favorite hymn, had lunch at a small diner where Raymond used to take Marcus after Little League games, drove past the old apartment where they'd lived when Marcus was young. You know what I remember most about that place? Raymond said, looking up at the building. Not the struggles, not the bills I couldn't pay, not the late nights working. I remember you, your laugh, your curiosity, the way you'd wait for me by the window when I came home from work, the way you'd run to me and hug me like I was the most important person in the world. You were, Marcus said quietly. I just forgot for a while. But you remembered, Raymond said, smiling. That's what counts. That evening, as the sun set, they returned to Raymond's house. Marcus had one more surprise. Dad, I need to show you something. He pulled out his laptop and opened a document. This is the new business plan for Hartwell Financial Services, but not the old version. This is the new one. Raymond looked confused. New one? I'm expanding, Marcus explained. I want to create a non-profit division that provides free financial literacy education to low-income families. And I want to establish a scholarship fund for children of single parents, kids like me, who have a parent willing to sacrifice everything but need help making it work. He turned the laptop so Raymond could see. I'm calling it the Raymond Hartwell Second Chance Foundation. All the money I made from selling the penthouse and the Bentley, I'm putting it into this. I can't give back the 20 years I lost, but I can honor you by helping other families avoid the struggles you went through. Raymond stared at the screen, tears streaming down his face. Marcus, this is incredible. I was thinking, Marcus continued, maybe you could be the face of it, share your story. Talk about what it means to sacrifice for your children. You've lived it, you can inspire other parents to keep going when things are hard. I don't know if I'm a good speaker, Raymond said uncertainly. You don't have to be polished, Marcus said. You just have to be real. Tell people the truth that loving your children through everything is worth it, that prayers are answered, that redemption is possible, that God sees their sacrifices even when their children don't. Raymond was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. If it helps other families, I'll do it. Marcus smiled. That's exactly what I thought you'd say. They spent the rest of the evening planning the foundation, discussing details, dreaming about the families they could help, and Marcus realized something profound. He was experiencing a joy he'd never felt during his years of corporate success. This was what meaning felt like. This was what purpose felt like. This was what love felt like. Not calculating profits, but creating impact. Not building wealth, but building legacy. Not measuring success in zeros, but in changed lives. You know what's funny? Marcus said as they were wrapping up. What's that? I used to think I needed millions of dollars to be happy, to be successful, to matter. But sitting here with you, planning this foundation, making a difference, I'm happier than I ever was in that penthouse. That's because you're finally investing in what matters, Raymond said. Jesus said it clearly. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? You had the whole world, Marcus, but you were losing your soul. Now you have less money, but you've gained everything that truly matters. Marcus nodded. I just wish I hadn't wasted so much time learning that lesson. Every prodigal son has to take his journey, Raymond said gently. The important thing is that you came home, and now you can help other prodigal sons find their way home too. As Marcus prepared to leave that night, Raymond walked him to the door. Walked, not in a wheelchair, not with a walker, but with just a cane. Look at you, Marcus said, amazed. You're getting stronger every day, because I have something to live for, Raymond said. I have my son back. I have this foundation to help build. I have purpose. That's better than any medicine. They hugged at the door, and Marcus held on a little longer than usual. I love you, Dad, Marcus said. Thank you for never giving up on me. I love you too, son, Raymond said. And I never will give up on you. That's what fathers do. Marcus drove home to his modest apartment so different from the penthouse, but infinitely more fulfilling, and spent the evening in prayer and reflection. Thank you, Jesus, he whispered. Thank you for reaching me. Thank you for my father's prayers. Thank you for showing me the truth before it was too late. Thank you for this second chance. And in that moment, Marcus felt the same presence he'd felt a year ago. Not visible this time, but unmistakable. Jesus was there, just as he'd promised. Always present, always faithful. Marcus smiled through his tears and opened his Bible, a habit he'd developed over the past year. He turned to Luke 15, the parable of the prodigal son. He'd read it dozens of times since his transformation, but it hit differently every time. The son, who took his inheritance early, squandered it, and came home expecting nothing but judgment. The father who ran to meet him, embraced him, celebrated his return. Marcus had been that prodigal son, but unlike the story, his father had been right there the whole time, praying, hoping, never giving up. And Jesus, the true father, had pursued him into his darkness and brought him home. I was dead, and you made me alive, Marcus whispered. I was lost, and you found me. I was your enemy, and you made me your son. Thank you. If you've stayed with me through this entire story, thank you. I know it was difficult. I know parts of it were disturbing. But this is a true story. Details changed to protect identities, but the core events are real. There's a man who actually calculated his father's death for profit, who created a spreadsheet to determine whether his father was worth saving, who chose inheritance over love. And there's a father who prayed every single night for that son, who never stopped loving, who never stopped believing, who literally prayed himself into heaven's attention until Jesus intervened. This isn't just a story about elder neglect or financial greed. This is a story about what we worship, about what we value, about what we're willing to sacrifice for success. Our culture teaches us to worship money, to measure our worth by our bank accounts, to calculate everything, including relationships, in terms of profit and loss. We're taught that success means accumulating wealth, gaining power, climbing ladders. But Jesus teaches something radically different. He teaches that the greatest among us is the servant, that whoever wants to save his life must lose it, that we cannot serve both God and money. Marcus Hartwell had to learn this the hard way. He gained the world but was losing his soul, and it took a supernatural intervention, a personal visit from Jesus Christ, to wake him up before it was too late. If you're watching this and you've been treating your parents like burdens instead of blessings, stop. Stop right now, before it's too late. Before you have regrets that will haunt you forever. Your parents aren't perfect. They made mistakes. But if they sacrificed for you, if they loved you, if they gave you opportunities, honor that. Don't wait until they're dying to realize what they mean to you. The Bible is clear. Honor your father and mother, that your days may be long in the land. This isn't just an old-fashioned rule. It's a principle about reciprocal love, about remembering where we came from, about not being so consumed with building our own success that we abandon the people who built us. And if you're watching this as someone who's been abandoned by your own children, please know, your prayers matter. Raymond's prayers moved heaven. Your prayers can too. Don't give up. Keep praying. Keep loving. Keep hoping. God sees you. He hears you. And He is working, even when you can't see it. If you're watching this as someone who's far from God, who's worshiping money or success or power instead of the one who created you, please hear this. It's not too late. Jesus is still calling, still pursuing, still offering you a chance to come home. Marcus should have been beyond redemption. He calculated his father's death for profit. But Jesus reached him anyway because his father's prayers wouldn't stop rising to heaven. If Jesus can reach Marcus, He can reach anyone. If Jesus can transform Marcus, He can transform you. The question is, will you let Him? Will you respond to the knock on your heart's door? Will you accept the mirror He holds up, even when it shows you things you don't want to see? Will you choose love over greed, relationship over profit, eternal life over temporary success? Jesus said, "What does it profit a man to gain the whole world but forfeit his soul?" Marcus lived that question. He gained everything the world offers and almost lost the only thing that truly matters. Don't make that mistake. Don't wait for a supernatural intervention to wake you up. Respond to the gentle whisper of the Holy Spirit right now, calling you to change, calling you to repent, calling you home. Your Father, your Heavenly Father, is waiting with open arms, ready to celebrate your return, ready to forgive, ready to restore, ready to give you purpose and meaning and joy that money can never buy. All you have to do is say yes. Thank you for watching this story from Tales of God's Grace. If this message convicted your heart, if it challenged you, if it gave you hope, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. We share true stories of divine intervention, supernatural redemption, and the transforming power of Jesus Christ. Stories that remind us that no one is beyond God's reach, that prayers are powerful, and that love, real, sacrificial, unconditional love, can change everything. Leave a comment below sharing your own story of redemption, or pray for someone in the comments who needs to make things right with their parents. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who desperately need to hear them. Share this video with someone who needs this message, maybe someone who's neglecting their parents, maybe someone who's worshiping money, maybe someone who needs to know that God still speaks to us today. Remember, you cannot serve both God and money. You cannot calculate the value of a soul. You cannot measure love in dollars and cents. Marcus Hartwell learned this truth before it was too late. May we all learn it before our time runs out. May God bless you abundantly. May He heal your relationships. May He free you from the worship of money. And may you always remember, His grace is greater than your greed. His mercy is stronger than your mistakes. And His love never fails. Until next time, this is Tales of God's Grace, reminding you that every prodigal can come home, every prayer is heard, and Jesus is always waiting to welcome us back.
Subscribe to Tales of God's Grace for more true miracles and stories of redemption. Your support helps us reach and restore families around the world. Don't forget to tag a friend and share this video, so together we can spread faith, love, and healing where it's needed most.